just get up, go get a drink. If you're standing, okay, you're less apt to fall asleep. So if you need to go get a drink, just quietly get up, go get a drink, and come right back. Okay. Same with our videos that we watch. They are not a dog and pony show, but they're very important. And so we need to view all those. Okay, I think we're ready.
You're on.
Oh, I'm on. Okay. We're going to talk about the circular saw. One of the misnomers, especially from the old guys, is if you read this right here, it says skill saw. And for some reason, yeah, I do too. For some reason, you might hear us say, "Oh, go get the skill saw." Well, that's branding, just like DeWalt and Black & Decker and all those others. What is called is a circular saw. And we have two different kinds of circular saws. This one right here is a worm drive, and this one right here is a direct drive. And the way you remember that is, if you look at where the housing of the motor is, and then if you look at where the blade is, you got your motor housing, you got your blade, it's attached directly to the other end of that arbor. So we call this a direct drive. Okay, it's directly attached. This one, look at the difference. You can see how the motor's in this housing right here, then the blade is attached to the side. Motor housing, and then the blade is attached off to the side. We call this one a worm drive. So it's a circular saw, worm drive saw, produced by Skil. Okay, so those are the two differences. It's personal choice. Either one is going to cut for you. One might fit your hand better. If you're left-handed, if you're right-handed, and we have a little electric one here. If you're left-handed, you may not want to choose this one right here, because if you're going to saw, typically you like to saw in line with your shoulder. And so if you look over the saw here, it's a little bit harder to view versus looking down into the saw, and I'll show you that in a second. If you're right-handed, you're going to saw with the saw in line with your shoulder. Now I can look down and see the edge of the blade, right here. I can look down and I can put it onto the line. And when I cut the line off. And that's just what I do. And so if I have a partner that I'm working with, and he's measuring for me, I tell him, measure so that when I cut the line, I have an exact measurement on my board. Okay? So, this is the worm drive. A lot of guys that are right-handed will choose this. It's a way heavier saw. It's almost twice as heavy. This one right here, if you look at how I am with the right hand, for me to see the blade and line up on my line, I have to actually look over the saw. And I do it. I do more of this. I jump right up on top of it. So occasionally I do use this saw, but I would prefer that saw just because I can see down there. Okay. You guys, left hand, right hand, you have to just make that choice yourself. Okay. The blades that we have for these saws, we talked about this morning. This is an old blade right here. It's a smaller blade. It's a 6.5-inch blade. Both of these right here are 7 1/4, and that's pretty much a standard for circular saws. This one is just a smaller one. I don't know why we have it. I guess just because it was out there and we purchased it back in the early years of this program. The 7 1/4 is pretty much a standard. I'm going to pass these two around. You can see the thickness and the thinness. These blades cost about $4 a piece, maybe $4.25. What we use them for is for framing. We'll cut up a bunch of studs and plywood. If it goes dull, throw it in the garbage, put another one on. So it's very reasonable. These are more expensive, they're a little thicker. And we'll have them sharpened typically, because there's a lot of life left in them. But these, it's not worth it to sharpen. Usually they're 25 to 35 cents a tooth. By the time you add up 24 teeth, you probably could buy yourself a brand new blade. So that's why we throw these away. Looking at the knockouts on these, there's a difference. These are the exact blade, but there's a difference. Any of my second year students tell me the difference? And what saw they go to? Okay? The round 5/8 arbor, okay, it has the little insert left in it. If you want to take that insert out, you can, and then it's going to look like this right here. And this blade right here with the diamond fits on the worm drive saws. You have to take that out. The saw blades that have the 5/8 arbor would go on to this saw right here. And I think the transition was when, this is an old saw, this is probably from the early 70s. And so they came up with a little better system later on with these saws, and so they started having the diamonds knocked out. And I think a lot of it is having a clutch in here. And what the clutch does, or it's a stopping device, and what it does, it stops the saw if you let go of the trigger. Whereas some of the saws will run and run and run, and that's dangerous, because when you're done, you want to be walking away from that saw. But it's got a clutch in there that's going to stop it, okay, and allow it to come to a stop a lot faster. So I'm going to pass these two around. This is going to fit the direct drive saw. This one's going to fit the worm drive saw. We have another blade. I'll probably just pass these two around. This one right here is used for what? Siding, which is our James Hardie concrete siding. It doesn't look like it's much, but it performs way better for cutting concrete siding than this one. This one wouldn't even last you probably an hour. Okay, for some reason, this cuts really good. This is probably, well, I know it's a year old. It's possibly, it's two years old.
What brand is it?
Longbow or something.
Where did you get that at Western?
At Western.
'Cause I bought one this weekend, it's gone already.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, not,
Red?
no,
Oh.
blue.
Blue. At Western?
No. Lowe's. So
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
going
no,
somewhere
this-
else to buy one.
Yeah. So you can, I guess, look at the two things. One is it's for cutting concrete siding, and then the other, it has the diamond knockout for the worm drive, and this is for direct drive. Okay, the identification on the parts. One of the things, the guys that watch the video, which would be house construction, one of the first things they said to do is to look at the guard. Is the guard moving freely? Okay? And if it isn't, what are you supposed to do? Put a tag on it. Give it to Mr. K, give it to one of the instructors, and we're going to tag it, and we're going to pull it out and have it fixed. Okay? Now, possibly you could fix it yourself. Make sure it's unplugged. You could look down in there. Sometimes there's a sliver of wood in there, and it's slowing it down or actually stopping it from moving. So all you have to do is pull that sliver of wood out, and it's working again. That's a good thing. So before you use the saw, make sure you check that the guards are all moving freely. What you don't want to have happen is if that guard sticks and the saw comes back, if you're one of those guys that don't let it come to a complete stop when it's on the surface of the wood, what happens?
Where's the head? Right in the leg.
Sorry.